deferred, withdrawn.
I figured we'd have about half this number.
Me too. I don't know what we're looking at here.
Kroger has it set.
It's already withdrawn.
Was it?
That's what I heard.
2 o'clock.
It has been, it's all about the trash chute place.
Yes, you know why?
Where is
They got a
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the October 24th meeting of the Clarkson Montgomery County Regional Planning Commission. If you would, let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Commissioners, you've had an opportunity to review the minutes of the last meeting. Are there any changes, corrections, additions? If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Make a motion for approval.
Got a motion and a properly made second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Okay, Mr. Tindall.
Yeah, and just for the record, those were the minutes of both the regular session on 9/26 and a special call meeting of 10/13/23. Good afternoon, everyone. As a quick reminder, since last month, the Planning Commission videos are live streamed and recorded for viewing on our website and YouTube afterward. So if you do approach the podium or speak, you will be recorded live for all to see. We do have a couple withdrawals and deferrals today. The first two withdrawals are under our subdivision cases. Both variances, V6 for Joseph Wickham Jr. and V7 for Clay Powers, have been withdrawn, and their subsequent subdivisions, S60 2023, application of Joseph Wickham Jr., and application S61, application of Charles Clay Powers, those have been withdrawn. In addition, we do have several deferrals. If you're here for any of these cases, these will be deferred until next month. First one is county zoning case number 3, CZ 16 2023, Stilts Iron Incorporated. Cooper Boudreau is the agent. That has been deferred. CZ 02 2023, application of the Regional Planning Commission for text amendments regarding Guthrie Highway Access Management is deferred. And then one subdivision case, S52 2023, application of Gordon C. Jr., preliminary of Hickory Wild Section 3A. Commissioners, I will need a motion on the 3 deferrals.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion properly made second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. John, you ready?
I am.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've got a short number of cases that we'll be looking at today for rezoning, much shorter than usual. For each case, we allow up to 3 speakers for and 3 speakers against. We allow 3 minutes of speaking time for each of those that are for or against. And then at the end, if there is any one who is against this particular case or any particular case, the applicant is allowed a 3-minute rebuttal to respond to any of the comments made that may or may not be different than from what was originally stated. So remember that our cases are recommendations only. These cases, these recommendations will go forward to the city or the county. So if you've got one that you're interested in following, make sure you know if it's in the city limits or if it's in the county, and the dates for those meetings that you need to make if you want an opportunity to follow the case or to speak at those bodies is identified there in number 4 on the agenda. So make sure you don't lose touch with those if you want to go forward and keep up with those cases. Mr. Spainhower?
Mr. Chairman, thank you, and Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. Your first city case, or your only city case today, is on page 1 of the city staff report. It is Z56-2023, the estate of Bruce and Ostris Carden. The agent is Ligon Home Builders. This is for an application requested to go from RM1 Single Family Mobile Home Residential District to R3 Residential District. It's for property, 2 parcels fronted on the west frontage of Evans Road, approximately 325 feet north of the Evans Road and Dogwood Trail intersection. The reason for the request stated by the applicant is to build affordable homes. This would be an extension of the R3 zoning classification. It's currently 2 vacant mobile home lots with varying topography. It is in the Lafayette planning area. You'll see on page 2 the department comments it received in reference to this application. The street department has mentioned that access to Dogwood Trail only would be permitted for these lots, as they are dual frontage for Evans and Dogwood Trail. Page 3 of the staff report, this request would allow for increased residential density. You see our historical estimates using the new R3 standards and the applicant's estimates for lots being 15. Staff's recommendation is for approval. The proposed zoning request is consistent with the adopted land use plan. The Evans Road area continues to be an area in transition. Long-standing mobile home districts are seeing increased interest to redevelop into conventional built single-family homes, duplexes, and multifamily residential. The proposed R3 residential request is not out of character with the development pattern in the area, and it's also encouraged to maintain a desirable mixture of housing types. Adequate infrastructure serves the site, and no adverse environmental issues have been identified as part of this request. Page 4 and 5 are the aerial overviews of the request. Page 6 is a zoning map overview of the request. As of 4:30 yesterday afternoon, there's been no formal public comments logged in reference to this application. And if you have any questions for myself or the staff, I'll be more than happy to try to answer them for you. Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go into public hearing for case Z56-2023, estate of Bruce and Otris Carden. Anyone here would like to speak in favor of that rezoning? Please come forward, identify yourself and your address, please, sir.
Good afternoon, how are y'all? Calvin Ligon, 387 Berry Drive. Got this piece of property under contract, plan to do a small single-family subdivision on it, just like your support on rezoning it right now. And I can answer any questions y'all may have, or at least do my best.
Thank you, Mr. Ligon.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor of this rezoning application? Anyone in favor? Seeing none, is there anyone here who'd like to speak against this rezoning application? Seeing no opposition, Commissioners, the public hearing is over. We're back into regular session.
Motion for approval.
Second.
We got a motion and a second for approval. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Okay, motion passes.
Okay, Commissioners, if you'll switch over to your county zoning tab, you'll have the county staff reports. The first one starts on page 1 of the county staff report. It is CZ15-2023, the application of Holly Point LLC. The agent is Lawson Mabry. The request is just shy of 1 acre at .99. Presently zoned R4 multifamily, proposed to go to C5 highway and arterial commercial district. It would be an extension of the zoning classification, and this is for a portion of a previously approved development plan that fronts on the south frontage of US 79 or Dover Road, approximately 3,200 feet east of the US 79 Dover Road and Liberty Church Road intersection. The reason for this request stated by the applicant is the zoning request is part of a comprehensive plan to develop the Lisenby Farm with an appropriate mix of compatible land uses. When doing the final usage planning, we ended up with a small unusable tract of land zoned R4, and they're requesting this tract be rezoned and added to the adjacent tract zone C5. If you need a greater detail, we do have a layout of that previously approved plan, but that's why that zone just floats in the middle there. This is in the UGB in the High Point planning area. There were no department comments of any concern. We have received phone calls with questions about the request, but when it's been explained, no one's been opposed to this. There's no public comment logged in reference to this application, and the staff's recommendation is for approval. The proposed zoning request is consistent with the adopted land use plan. The proposed zone change is due to a minor adjustment of their development plan. The adjustment does not significantly change the overall development plan for the property, and there's been no adverse environmental issues identified, and the infrastructure is in place to serve the site. The next two pages show the aerial overviews that you saw on the screen. Page 6 is the zoning map overview. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to try to answer them for you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna go back into public hearing again, this one being for Holly Point LLC, case number CZ 15-2023. I saw Lawson Mabry, so I'm assuming he is speaking in favor. Mr. Mabry, if you would identify your home or business address for us.
I'm Lawson Mabry, 115 West Glenwood Drive. We just ended up with when we finished our plan, we ended up with a with a track with a line drawn down the center of it, and we decided it'd be best C5 instead of R4. So I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you very much.
Will there be anybody else speak in favor of Mr. Mabry? Okay. Is anyone here who'd like to speak against case CZ 15-2023? Anyone against? Seeing no opposition, we'll close the public hearing. Commissioners, back into regular session.
Make a motion for approval due to the zoning request is consistent with the adopted land use plan.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and properly made second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion passes.
All right, Commissioners, your next application starts on page 8 of the staff report. It is the application of CZ 17-2023. That is the application of Run Amok Outfitters. This request encompasses right at 6.44 acres. It's a piece of land bound by the Red River on the south, fronted on the east frontage of Port Royal Road, approximately 800 feet north of the Port Royal Road and Old Clarksville-Springfield Road intersection. The request is to go from agricultural with an historic overlay to agricultural commercial with an historic overlay. This would not be an extension of the zoning classification. It's currently a grassland area located in the Port Royal Historic District, bounded by the Red River to the south and encumbered by the FEMA floodplain. At the time of the application, no reason is given for this application by the applicant. Page 9 of the staff report, you'll see the department comments that we received in reference to this application. As I mentioned in the description, it was indicated that this lies within an A flood zone. The floodplain development permit would be required, and a flood study may be required depending on any proposed use. The Codes Department also stated requires floodplain development permit. This request would allow for or create increased traffic, light, and noise. Be served by Clarksville Gas and Water. It is accessible from Port Royal Road. It is in the Ross U Road planning area. The staff's recommendation is for disapproval. The proposed zoning request is inconsistent with the adopted land use plan. The adopted land use plan states that consideration of your community's our community's past by preserving the unique aspects of the built environment as well as those of nature. The sites of Pioneer Outpost and our river accesses to include Red River should be maintained and retained as critical historic settings that put our community on the map. There are adjacent parcels to the north of this request that are currently zoned commercial under the same ownership, one of which is vacant and need a rehabilitation. Rehabilitation or removal of the deteriorated structures within the existing commercial zones should be prioritized over creating new commercial districts that are entirely encumbered by the FEMA floodplain. Additional encroachment of commercial zoning in close proximity to the historic Port Royal State Park and portion of the National Trail of Tears Historic Trail has significant potential to have a negative impact on the area. During the historic environmental review of this application, a state park official indicated what appears to be an Indian mound within the area of the request is a mound of dirt that was created illegally by digging out a canoe access point to the river. I will state, in reference to note 5, during the review of this, that was determined to be done by a previous owner, not the applicant that you have here in front of you today. But if you see in the photographs, there is a mound of dirt, and it is not an Indian mound. So I think that's the big point of clarification. Pages 11 and 12 show the area of the request. 13 shows a wide angle view of the request. Page 14, you'll see the dashed black lines there. That shows the historic overlay for the property. And then page 15, you can see the blue dashed lines. Those are that's the flood area, FEMA flood area for the property. While there's been no formal comment logged in as of 4:30 yesterday afternoon, we have received multiple phone calls in reference to this application, and I do anticipate at least one person to be here to speak in reference to this application. If you have any questions, be more than happy to try to answer them. I know this has got a lot of different things addressing it with the floodplain and the historic zoning on the property. I will also state that at yesterday's Historic Zoning Commission meeting, this application was made aware of those members as well, and to my knowledge, no complaint or comments were given. So.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna go into public hearing for CZ 17, 2023. Applicant is Run Amok Outfitters LLC. Anyone here would like to speak in favor of this case?
Hello, my name's Brad Weekly. I work for Weekly Brothers Engineering on 108 Centerpoint Drive. I'm here to represent the owners, Hunter Stapp and Jason Pennington. They're both teachers, so they were unable to be here today. Main purpose of this, or the purpose of this, is for banking reasons to help in the rehabilitation of the store at the top. Also, I mean, it's not being used for ag currently. It's not going to be used for ag. What it is a part of Run Amok, which is a commercial business. It's used for parking and access to the river. And so it seems to be most efficient or the best case is for it to be commercial as well. It's also used for some events. I don't see reasons for it to remain ag. If you have any questions, and the owners will be at the county commission meeting, and they hate that they didn't get to speak, but they hope for your support. If you have any questions, just please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weekly. Is anyone else here who'd like to speak in favor of CZ 17? Okay, anyone who would like to speak against CZ 17? Anyone against? Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon. My name is Marion Perron. I live at 2560 Port Royal Road. My concern, because I'm not really familiar with ag commercial, what that means, my concern would be an extrapolation of a commercial district with a commercial permit becoming something later on that it may not be intended for today. I wouldn't want to see eventually the land filled in and a gas station put there. It's historic today, it may not be historic forever. I really would not like to see something like that. I know that there was a little dining taco place there for a while, and you know, that might be helpful to the community, but have something that would encroach way down into the river, I don't think is a good use of the land. It would definitely alter the aspect of the community. To increase that into a commercial property, I don't think would be very wise or kind to nature or to the history. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else who would like to speak against CZ 17? Anyone against? Seeing no one else, we'll close the public hearing. Commissioners, we're back in regular session.
Brad want a rebuttal?
I'm sorry. Yes. Mr. Weekly, you'll get another opportunity.
Don't have a whole lot to add, other than a large portion, or most all this portion is encumbered by the 100-year, and as well as being in a historic district. So if anything were to go in there, which would be very difficult to do, then it would have to go through, of course, site plan, historic, work with the Corps. It's a whole lot of work to do. So the plan right now is to use it as it is along with the building, or their existing commercial business, which is the canoe rental, for access and for parking. So, thank you.
Mr. Weekly,
I was about to say, I got a couple of questions. You go ahead.
one question, with it being in a 100-year floodplain, there's a lot of hoops to jump through to try to even put a
Yes, sir.
structure on there.
Yes, sir.
So, I mean, in the long run, if we're just sitting here listening, are they trying to utilize it again as a parking lot? What's the real
Yeah.
gist behind this?
There's no absolute set in stone plan for this right now. It's really for helping them gain finances to work on the store at the top, as well as it's being used as commercial access. So I know parking's not required, is the access required? They just feel it's best to have it in a commercial zone.
And then, Mr. Spainhoward, for the public's knowledge, will you explain what Ag C is and how it limits the commercial application to stuff
Mr.
that
Weekly.
benefits agriculture?
Mr.
And
Weekly?
Mr. Weekly, we still got more questions. 1 second.
From an agricultural standpoint, it's usually for individual proprietary uses that are associated with ag. I will add, I've taken multiple phone calls in reference to this. One of the greater concerns expressed in those phone calls is there was a previous request for a zone change to go to commercial to allow for a campground. A campground would be a permitted use in the agricultural commercial district and would be one of the most likely outcomes of a zoning case here because it would be temporary structures and not permanent. So I think if we were to look at the uses that are established there, anything from event centers, they couldn't build a permanent structure, the campgrounds, a distillery, they couldn't build a permanent structure. The most likely outcome under this zoning classification would be a recreational campground. And that's what's been expressed and discussed in our staff meeting. I think from our standpoint, that's one of the reasons it was recommended for disapproval. And that's been the primary concern for a lot of individuals who have called.
But with Ag C, you cannot put a store or anything like that,
Couldn't,
as stated.
there could be a temporary structure that could be placed, that could be moved. As far as building in a floodplain, there are ways to go about doing so, but there is the requirement for the Historic Zoning Commission to review. So,
But I'm saying Ag C does not allow for the building of a convenience store.
does not. No.
Yes.
A farm stand.
A farm stand, fruit stand,
Yep.
something like that
Yep.
is permittable, and that's usually a temporary structure anyways.
Could be, yes.
Yes, okay. And then, where'd Mr. Weekly, there he is. So, the benefit, I'm assuming that was kind of what you answered, it would be to allow for parking
Well,
more than anything, because at the moment, you're already doing what you're doing on ag land.
Correct.
So I'm trying to pinpoint what is the benefit of having Ag C? Is it just the financial thing to be able to get banks to approve it because you have enough parking spaces for the structure
Yes, it
at the
helps
top
with
of
the
the hill?
banking. It's a pretty large help with the banking aspect to put it on the top of the hill. When it comes to parking, you can park in any zone. So yes, it would be able to use as is. We haven't fully discussed the access because it's also used as an access to the river. So is that considered a portion of their business or not? But they have just requested to go commercial, to go ahead, and since that's what it's being used for, it's not being used for agriculture.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else from Mr. Weekly?
My question actually is in regard to the financial side of it. I mean, it seems that most the main thing, like you said, the reason this request is simply for the financial purposes of being able to borrow against the land.
Somewhat, I'm sure that that's a big help for them, but also to have all their business on commercial land, and that does help financially is, yes, banking purposes, but I don't think that's their main reason. As to have everything in commercial is because it is a commercial business, is help. They also throw events. I don't know if y'all went to their most recent event as a fundraiser. So that's
Are Mr. Spain Howard or Mr. Tyndall, are they not able to use it for parking or anything as they've been
they
using
can.
it?
they can.
To my knowledge, I did reach out to the codes department, as I do with every zoning case. In reference to this one, when there was not a reason listed, I contacted them and said, is there a specific reason that your office required that zone change? They stated that they had no issues with how it was previously being used. I think once a year they've used it as a fundraising festival and had like a farmer's market. But the codes department didn't see the need to rezone to accommodate those uses. So
Okay, thank you.
there may be a representative here that can. I don't see them. I'd hate to speak for them, but I do have an email from them that pretty much states that.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You ready for a motion, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, the public hearing's closed now. so-
I make a motion for disapproval based on the rehabilitation or removal of deteriorated structures within the existing commercial zone should be prioritized before creating new commercial districts that are entirely encumbered by the FEMA floodplain.
Second.
We got a motion and properly made second to disapprove the request for a rezoning. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion fails.
Please note my abstention.
The motion passes, but the request for rezoning fails.
All right, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, since both variance cases were withdrawn, we can proceed with the remaining subdivision cases on a consent agenda. For the public and for the board, all items in this portion of the agenda are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the staff of the Regional Planning Commission and may be approved by one motion. However, a member of the audience, commission, or staff may request that an item be removed for separate consideration. Is anyone in the audience here would like to speak about any of the cases that have not been deferred or withdrawn at this point? That includes cases S33, 62, 63, 64, 65, and that's it. So if you'd like to have a specific hearing on any of those cases, let us know now. Just raise your hand and let us know. If not, I'll have Mr. Parker read all those into the consent agenda and the Planning Commission can act.
Okay, good afternoon, Commissioners. Our first subdivision case is case number S33, 2023. The applicant is Bill Mace. It's revised preliminary plat of Merchants Boulevard right-of-way dedication. The recommendation is for preliminary plat approval, subject to the 4 conditions listed. Case 52 is deferred. Case S62, 2023. The applicant is CBF Enterprises. Preliminary plat of Old Iron Court right-of-way dedication. The recommendation is for preliminary plat approval, subject to the 4 conditions listed. Case number S63, the applicant's Industrial Development Board of Montgomery County. Preliminary replat of CMCC BPS Commercial Property Hancock Road, lots 1, and preliminary of lot 6. The recommendation is for preliminary plat approval, subject to the 4 conditions listed. Case number S64, 2023, the applicant is Bill Ballou. The subdivision is preliminary plat approval of Drift King Estates. Recommendation is for preliminary plat approval, subject to the 3 conditions listed. And the final case is case number S65, applicant's Bill Mace, preliminary plat of Grattan Estates. Recommendation is for preliminary plat approval, subject to the 3 conditions listed. That's all I have, Commissioners. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioners, we got a consent agenda which has been identified. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Your second?
Second.
Got a motion properly made second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Okay, the consent agenda passes.
All right, commissioners, if you'll open the site plans, abandonments, and roadway access section of your iPads there. Again, similar to the subdivisions, all items in this portion of the agenda are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the staff and the Regional Planning Commission and may be approved by one motion. However, a member of the audience, the commission, or staff may request that an item be removed for separate consideration. Staff is not removing anything. Is anyone from the public here to discuss any of the site plans on the agenda today? All right, Ms. Russell, would you please read the cases into the consent agenda?
SR-23-2023 CarMax Clarksville, we recommend approval with the conditions listed. SR-39-2023 Life Point Church, Tiny Town Road, we recommend approval with the conditions listed. SR-46-2023 Mace Hampton Station, we recommend approval with the conditions listed. SR-47-2023 Double Dogs Shopping Center, we recommend approval with the conditions listed. SR-48-2023 860 Needmore Road Apartments, we recommend approval with the conditions listed. SR-49-2023 Kroger Marketplace and Fuel Center, we recommend approval with the conditions listed. 3 county road abandonments, AB-6-2023 Metals Road portion of, we recommend approval, no conditions. AB-7-2023 abandonment of Marlow Road with the condition that the road will retain its name for use as a private road and for postal and 911 emergency purposes. AB-8-2023 Jonathan Blick for abandonment for portions of undeveloped road off of Edlin Street. We recommend approval, no conditions.
I think somebody has.
Again, any members of the public want to discuss any of those cases? Sir, which case? Oh, no, we'll get to the case in a second. Just let me know which number.
I don't hear what's the next. I'm sure you can hear my voice. That tells you something. And what's this been read to
We
me?
need to wait. We need to vote on this first, and then we'll have an opportunity to discuss the case you're here to.
Sir,
Which case would you like to discuss?
Which case?
what?
The
Kroger.
Kroger? Okay.
That was the last item on
Number 6, 49-23.
The Kroger. All right, we can pull that for separate consideration. So just wait one moment. We'll approve the others, and then we'll have a public hearing on the Kroger.
Ma'am, did you also say, you weren't talking about the other one on Tiny Town too, were you?
You want to discuss that, so that pull it.
She said there's 2 on Tiny.
Yeah, she said Kroger. She did say Kroger.
Yeah, but she said there was 2.
There's 2.
Hey,
2 Kroger?
hey, Sergeant, did she want to discuss a separate one, or is it also the Kroger? Yes, this, yeah.
Just the Kroger.
Just the Kroger? Okay.
Okay.
All right, we'll pull that one off.
All right,
Thank
so
you, sir.
for the consent agenda, all items except for SR 49-2023 will be considered with Ms. Ruth Russell's conditions listed.
Commissioners, this will be a consent agenda with the exception of the Kroger application. Do I hear a motion for approval?
Make a motion for approval based off the staff's recommendation.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Okay.
SR-49-2023 Kroger U-580 Marketplace and Fuel Center. We recommend approval subject to the following conditions. Approval of all utility plans by the Office of the Chief Utility Engineer to include lift station upgrades. Number 2, approval of all grading, drainage, and water quality plans by the City Street Department to include sidewalks along Tiny Town Road. Number 3, subdivision or minor plat completed.
Okay, we'll go into public hearing on case SR 49-2023. Application is by Goodwin Mills and Kaywood LLC. Anyone here would like to speak in favor of SR 49?
Evening, everyone. My name is Eli Shelton. I'm an engineer with Goodwin Mills and K. Wood. We developed the site plan, and we also have Kroger representatives here with us. And like I said, I think Ruth has kind of listed everything necessary, but it's just a 123,000 square foot Kroger marketplace, and associated parking and fuel center. So if y'all have any specific questions, I'd be glad to answer, or I mean, if you just want to hear the concerns, I'd be glad to address those as well.
Is this Kroger and additional retail or any out parcels, or?
No, just the Kroger
Just
itself.
the Kroger by itself, a standalone Kroger?
Correct.
Commissioners, got any questions?
I think we need to hear what they got.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor of the Kroger, or the Kroger request here, case SR 49? Anyone like to speak in favor? Okay. Who would like to speak against SR 49?
This is your opportunity, sir.
If you want to speak against this one, now's your opportunity.
Yes, I want
Step up here for me. Step up here for me. And if you'll tell them your name and your address.
My name's Ernest E. Carpenter for 48 years, 84 years, I'm sorry.
Mr. Swift, does he have a time limit?
Yeah, we've got
You got
three
You got
minutes.
three?
Yeah.
You got 3 minutes to voice your concerns, Mr. Carpenter.
Okay, I've lived at this address 63 years. 23 years, I guess. Anyway, we've lived there a long time. We were the first one on that part of the road. And what I've been through with this realtor, you wouldn't believe. He has called me pretending that he was somebody else, and he was pretending that he could call me 3 times or 5 times or whatever, and if I turned him down all the times, then he can turn around and take my property. And not only that, he used scare tactics. The biggest bush hog I ever saw came down my yard one day trying to scare me out. And I called everybody I knew that was in the real estate, and I had them all down there to see what this sucker had done. I'll use sucker as the best name I can come for it. But now, he is not, I don't know what to say about it. I don't know what to tell you about it. I don't know what to tell you about it, but this is the United States of America. And we should not be subjected to this kind of verbiage and this kind of tactic to acquire your property. Would you want that kind of action against you, trying to get your property? No. And you wouldn't either. But this is all something that came over the hill, and this is.
Hang on, Mr. Swift wants to ask you a question. Mr. Swift wants to ask you a question.
Thank you.
Mr. Carpenter, do you think he's trying to buy your property?
Somebody is.
That's not the property that is being developed.
Well-
It's the other corner.
That's what it is, sir. There's a little place up there that's this person. It's about, I'm gonna guess, 6/10 of an acre. He has beat everybody in the community over the head to try to get that property. You understand?
I hear what you're saying.
Then he came to those scare tactics and different things trying to get my property. And he called me X number of phone calls in succession.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
So where Mr. Carpenter's property is versus,
It's two different corners.
I don't know if you can see the map over there. It's
I
on,
know-
it's
I
on
know where
opposite
it is.
sides of the road, right?
He's talking about this lake.
Right, so.
We're
so I
not
think
doing anything to your property today.
They're not, the Regional Planning Commission is not doing anything with your property. This real estate agent is just calling you individually trying to buy your property.
Well,
He's trying to hornswoggle you is what he's
you're
trying to
right,
do.
you're right.
But the Regional Planning Commission is not. They're just presenting Kroger's plan on what they're going to build across the street from you.
And Kroger's
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Carpenter, you live right here.
Yes, sir.
We're talking about this property over here. The
I think
property
it's
with the
right
yellow
up.
lines.
Behind the Goodwill
Yeah,
store.
I'm aware of the property, Kroger is trying to get. I'm all for it. And
Okay.
I think it'll be a benefit to our neighborhood. And I've lived there long enough that that's home. And that's where we want to keep it.
You just need to ignore the phone call.
Yes.
Like that. Unless it's your wife calling.
And Mr. Carpenter, you know you
I'm
can always
sorry
call
that
us.
my
Yes, sir.
Bread of my
That's okay. That's,
You are good.
you're good to go.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, is there anyone else who has an issue with SR 49? Okay, commissioners, we are back into regular session on this SR 49 2023.
Motion to approve SR 49.
Second.
Second.
Got a motion properly made second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. SR 49 passes.
All right, commissioners, closing in on the last section of the agenda today. If you'll go to your other business tab under your iPads, first item up is the monthly profit and loss statement through September 30th, 2023. Be happy to answer any questions. I'll appreciate an approval of the P&L report.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion properly made second. All in favor, aye.
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 Thank you. Next slide up, we do have an annexation this month, Annexation 3, 2023. This annexation is 6 properties. This is off Exit 8, north of Hancock Road and east of International Boulevard, right before Rollo Lane. The 3 northern properties are represented by the IDB, and the 3 southern properties, 2 of them are represented by Newellberg LLC, and the other one is 3NB LLC, also known as Popeyes, Burger King, and Taco John's. The interlocal agreement with the city fire department is changing out there for coverage of industrial and commercial properties, and these properties could be left without city fire coverage if they don't annex. And as the IDB develops, it's better to have this annexed into the city limits with the fire department right next door. Existing is the 3 fast food restaurants. We have approved a 4th recently that has not begun construction. And at full build out, you'll see 2 more fast food restaurants, a full service restaurant, an occupational walk-in health clinic, full service grocery and pharmacy, and additional multi-tenant spaces. There's no additional right-of-way here. We have gone out to all the other departments, and the only issue is CDE will have to extend power lines and work out the transfer of ownership of the service lines to the existing users out there over the next 6 to 12 months. So Planning Commission staff recommends approval, and we do need to have a public hearing on this.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have a public hearing on the plan of service for A3 2023 in the other business section of our agenda today. Anyone here who would like to ask any questions or make any presentations? Commissioners, our public hearing is ended. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion for approval.
Got a motion properly made second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign.
And the final other business is the release of a performance bond for Mockingbird Meadows Final Plat S 84 2021. On your tablet, you can see a letter from McKay Burchett Engineering referencing the completion of this to satisfaction. And Mr. Parker went out and measured and took photos of the private easement out there in the county. We do recommend release of the bond at this time. I will need a motion on that.
Motion.
to remove the performance bond.
Second.
Got a motion properly made second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign.
Open public.
Okay, we're gonna go into item number 8, which is on, I guess, on the last page of the agenda, the public comment period, which is something we just started about 3 months ago. This is for issues that were not active issues in today's meeting. So is there anyone here who would like to speak on an issue that was not a part of our program today? If they would, please come forward, identify yourself, and
Hi, my name is Lori Smith. I am representing my property at 5216 and 5218 Guthrie Highway, and I'd like to hand out some materials. These are the plans for each. No, there's 4 pages of each. I just wanted you to have your own copy as I show you the large copy. So one of the items that was withdrawn today, as I understand, was moved to internal staff approval instead of board approval. And I am disappointed in that decision, as I have tried for several months to discuss this. So the first thing I want to do is share with you the plan. And the second thing is I want to share my communication over the last couple of months regarding this with the Regional Planning Commission and the Montgomery County. You have 4 documents. One shows these are 2 properties, 5224 Guthrie Highway and 5238, which is right adjacent to that. They're both adjacent to my property at 5216 Guthrie Highway. The first one you have just shows the drawing shows the property directly adjacent to me, which is, you see the easements on that property, and on that easement is a road that goes into a property in Kentucky. So if you look at this one, there are, if this is Guthrie Highway, this first is the 5224, and then the triangular property next to it is right adjacent. And so the individual who has purchased these and is combining them into one property. In and of itself, I don't have a problem with that. If you look at the next drawing, it shows that the property will be used for mini storages, which I'm completely comfortable with mini storages going on that property. But the road that goes back to the property behind it, that's actually in Kentucky, has been relocated to the property line adjacent to my company and my property. And I'll explain why that presents a problem. Again, if that road were moved to behind the mini storages, I would be fine with that. I have no problem with the mini storages. The problem that I have is that road is going to lead back to 580 unit housing development. That entire development is in Kentucky. And when I found out about this, I have reached out to TDOT, to our legislators, to the Regional Planning Commission. And the only access is that road that now is sitting on my property line. So the planned access for this property. So roughly 2,000 trips a day will go on that road. And I have a tenant whose office building is sitting right there on that, right off the property line, which that will be a nuisance and a disruption to their professional business. There is, for this property, a right-of-way, electrical right-of-way that would allow it to exit into Kentucky. Certainly the property lines would have to be moved, but there is another way for these residents to exit. But doing so on my property, or on my property line, devalues my property. It creates problems, both with safety and just the general traffic. I want to be clear in that, in and of itself, I have no problem with the mini storage. I have no problem with the development. I have a problem with the road being relocated to the property line. When I first became aware that this was a possibility, I reached out. You want to help me again? I don't know where he was. There's enough. I have more here if needed. I reached out in an email and asked to talk about it. I didn't get a response, but I know everyone is busy. I reached out again. I was on a call for a different purpose, and I mentioned to Mr. Tyndall I wanted to talk to him about this because I was highly concerned. I had 3 major problems with this. One is it's that amount of traffic going out onto Guthrie Highway is dangerous. And so it's the safety of my employees, the safety of my customers was paramount. Second, the entire property is in Kentucky, which means 100% of the revenue is in Kentucky. But the burden of the access on the road is in Tennessee, and that's not equitable to Tennessee taxpayers and Montgomery County citizens. And so frankly, I reached out to TDOT about that, and I'm still pursuing that. But third is that road was relocated to my property line, and my tenant in that building has already said they don't want 2,000 vehicles coming by their window every day. And that presents, it devalues my property and has an impact on my property. If the road were relocated, from a property value perspective, it were relocated behind the mini storages, I think it would be fine, at least from my property value. My concern, again, I reached out, the first time Mr. Tyndall and I connected was, I mentioned it on a Zoom call, and he did not seem to know about the project. Here for a youth leadership program day, I asked him about it, and he said that he did not, that he didn't know about it, that it wasn't something on his radar. I said that Guthrie had decided they could bring. Well, excuse me. He said that could not happen because sewer was not available, and I shared that Guthrie is providing sewer, and so he said he would reach out about that. I provided copies of our communication because just so you have an easy access to see that this is something I've been trying to address for some time. Over the past couple of weeks, as an example, when I saw it on the agenda this 2 weeks ago, I started making phone calls. Last week on Tuesday, the 17th, they started moving dirt next door on those properties. They started building that road. I reached out to RPC. They said that they don't release or give permits. So I reached out to Building and Codes. I left a message for Mr. Doss. He called me back on Thursday, said he had no idea what I was talking about, but that he would look into it. On Friday morning, last Friday the 20th, I reached out to Mr. Jeff Bryant because I was told that possibly he had authorized this road to be built. He said that that's not what his office does. When he reached out to Mr. Doss said, oh yeah, he had already done the pre-construction meeting and had already approved this. So somewhere in there's a miscommunication, and then Friday afternoon when I asked if this was gonna be still on the agenda, Mr. Tyndall said that it was, had been moved to an internal approval without a staff approval, without having to go before the board. That's problematic for me because as a citizen, I didn't get an opportunity to speak out against this. And again, I'm not against the property, the two functions of the property. I'm against the relocation of the road, which is detrimental to my property. I did receive notice from the Regional Planning Commission that the minor plat would be on today's agenda. So I'm not sure why it was withdrawn and approved internally. But I would like for it to be reconsidered and for there to be an opportunity for the board to consider requesting this be changed.
Ms. Smith, how close is the road to the building that you own next door?
The building that I own is on the setback, so I think it's, forgive me, it's either 15 or 20 feet. It's required by building codes to be off the property line. But the road, as you can see, is actually on the property line. Like it actually, in the back of the property, it kind of veers off, but it literally sits on the property line. So, for example, when I walked into that office yesterday, I mean, it feels like an arm's reach to the equipment that's building that road. Other questions?
I don't think there should be a Q&A session.
Okay.
I guess one question I do have is TTL's site plan, is it two codes as far as the distances off of the property line?
I'll give you a little longer version of that. Being in Kentucky, this is handled by the city of Guthrie through a contract with Community Design Services out of Hopkinsville, which does it's a regional planning commission for Christian County, Todd County, and their cities. One of the conditions they have put on this site plan is approval by TDOT. So though we would have done it if it had come to the board, they are doing it anyway. So this is going through TDOT for whatever lane improvements would be necessary for a safe function of whatever amount of trips per day are created out there. When it comes to our approval, we did approve the storage center a while back, staff level, and it was just for the mini storage. And then a plat was going to come in, and the variance request today was simply to have no septic field. In the time that they applied for that about 2 months ago till now, they have found an old septic permit that was good enough. He's still not going to use it, but they have an approved septic tank out there, which negated the need for the variance, which made this a staff level permit because we don't see easements here when it's a private easement like this. And because we're dealing with the state of Kentucky, we don't have authority over reviewing that site plan. They did not ask us for our comments on that site plan. So we really just have to look at that access. What we decided, what was originally going to be done is just address this off of Guthrie Highway. And we said that we don't want to confuse that with being a Tennessee address. So it will be a named private road of some sort tied to the project back there so that emergency services out of Kentucky can find it. And should there be an incident at the intersection, you'll have an intersection name, Guthrie Highway, and whatever the side road would be. But it is not a public road. I do agree with the speaker that this does not provide any benefit to Tennessee, but it is their access as proposed. I have heard these rumors about other easements, if you will, through Kentucky up to Graysville Road or other roads. But again, without us being able, I don't issue the permit. I don't tell them to not issue the permits. They have not asked us for our feedback, and it is in their hands. So that's the reason it's not before you today. I was not aware of this until we started calling Guthrie and made some calls, and this would in essence double the population of Guthrie, Kentucky. So I was pretty shocked to hear what they were going to do out there, and not just a smaller 100-unit subdivision or something. So we did consult with County Attorney Tim Harvey to get his opinion, and he said, treat it like you would any division of land, and I believe that's what we've done.
But the entire road is in Tennessee, and relocating it from one side of that property to the other is a Tennessee decision. And I find it amazing that a site plan can go through, or that the minor plat. I mean, in January, I submitted a site plan that took 6 weeks to get through, and it was on on my property, which had been through a site plan a year earlier. And so this, was a matter of a few days. It's still detrimental to me, and benefits fully the other party. And frankly, it's not Tennessee's problem to grant access to Kentucky, other than if the easement has been removed, then there's no requirement to put a road there. If the easement is still legally binding there, then the planning commission board should have authority to make sure that it doesn't benefit one to the risk of the other.
And Jeff, you said that TDOT has already approved this?
No.
No?
It's in review. The engineers submitted all the data for review of TDOT for what improvements they would want on the state highway.
So how can they start moving dirt if there's not been an approval? I find that
Yeah.
disconcerting.
You can typically start grading your property.
Uh-huh.
Again, that's between the Building and Codes Department for a grading permit, but oftentimes folks will start grading their properties prior to getting an approval to get ahead of the work. Again, I don't issue that permit. You can grade your permit almost at any point without a site plan or a subdivision, but that's the department that you'd have to go through for that.
So our local buildings and code?
The county Building and
County,
Code Department.
okay.
I'd just really like to know if TDOT's actually gonna think that this would benefit Tennessee at all, because we wouldn't be getting any of the tax revenue off of the 500 units. And the wear and tear of an extra 1,000 vehicles on our roads, especially in that area, on an already pretty busy little highway there, would really do quite a bit of wear and tear over the years.
I'm pretty
it's
sure
dangerous.
95% of the units are gonna come to Clarksville anyway, or the industrial park, so I think regardless if they come out on Guthrie or go through Graysville and get back on Guthrie, they're gonna end up on our roads anyway, using the shopping centers in Tennessee. And it's a tricky one. There's some examples where we have stuff that accesses Kentucky, but it's in Tennessee, and we have some other examples up off Tiny Town Road where there's Kentucky parcels accessing Tennessee roads. In fact, our school buses have to go into Guthrie to get back out on Port Royal Road and Guthrie Road over there, so it is a little odd situation up there in that part of the county.
But are those in conjunction with the detriment to the landowner in our cities, those other projects? And that's what she's looking at. It's very detrimental to her property.
And that, it's, I get that the approval is up there, but wouldn't a site plan that large here have to have 2 entrances and exits?
Yeah.
Not for multifamily. We've not ever instituted that. We would suggest something like that. I don't know what code Guthrie's operating off of.
They don't have the same standards and codes.
So then my question would be, as a body, as us as a body, how can we address, if any, to TDOT to give at least these concerns? Is there anything that we can do, or do we just sit on it? 'Cause-
We can forward our concerns to TDOT. Not that this is a public hearing, and I don't suggest we bring up, the engineer is here and probably can answer some of those questions afterward of what TDOT is looking for. They've also been working with the Montgomery County Highway Department as well to design, again, a safer intersection. That's a 2-lane, 55-mile-per-hour section up there, and was some of our initial concerns. But without it being a road, it doesn't kick in subdivision regulations, so it's simply a subdivision combination plat. It has a septic field per TDEC. It doesn't hit that criteria to come to the planning commission. So we don't, we have stuff that's considered staff level, both at the site plan and the subdivision levels. And because it's not a public road, it didn't get to that level.
But wouldn't this be a public road?
No.
into
No, it'd be a
Kentucky.
private road.
Yeah, it'd be a private road.
Once they got in Kentucky, but wouldn't it be a public road in Tennessee?
And let me take it one step further. If this were just a site plan only, if it was one parcel without a state line in between, it wouldn't even have a subdivision. It would just be a driveway out to the road. So all they're doing is basically a driveway on an easement through Tennessee.
Can I ask
Kentucky
one question?
property.
Certainly.
If you knew that development was not going behind there and all you had then was the mini storage, because again, we're looking at Tennessee, would you still have the same heartburn, with the ingress egress that's shown on this road?
So if it remained a single family, like as it is now, a single family dwelling that's back there, and they, excuse me, just relocated the road, no, I could live with that. Or if you wanted to say it absolutely can't be used for access into more than a single family home, I would be okay with that.
But I guess I'm going again, let me just make sure I've stated what I was saying. With the mini storages here and the road being on your border, do you have a problem with that for just the mini storages? Because that's all that's being affected in the state of Tennessee.
No, I don't have a problem with it at the mini storages. What I would recommend is that you can see on this drawing, the entrance to the mini storages is over
Right.
here.
Okay.
If these shifted and that access to the back property came behind there, I would still have a problem with it as a Tennessee taxpayer, but I wouldn't have a problem with it as a landowner.
You don't like the road that's not really even associated with the mini storage.
Right, and if it's a private road, who maintains that? Because what's gonna happen is then there's gonna be all kinds of issues down the road, no pun intended, that, are on my property line, that no one's responsible for. So, I mean, I believe there's a mutually agreeable, beneficial, if that access road were moved behind the mini storages, and there's, you know, it appears to be a way to shift that and make that happen. It still becomes a Tennessee issue in terms of access, and, you know, but it doesn't detrimentally impact my property. And frankly, you can't say, well, that's okay, because we don't know what's going behind it, because you do. I mean, it's not like
It's a secret.
Right.
it's a secret, you know, what the plan is. So just saying, well, it's a site level review, or staff level review, because it's not, you know.
I guess my question was, do you really, not that you have a dog in the fight, you don't have the problem with the mini storage, you have the problem with the road.
I have a problem with the road. The mini storages
Okay.
are fine. I mean, I
Okay.
welcome that next to my business. That's not
Okay.
my concern. And
Even if
accessing-
it's shifted over a little bit.
Even if it's shifted over, if the road isn't on my property line, then I don't have
Can we wrap
2,000
this up? I got
vehicles
one
coming
last
by,
thing
in and
Can
out
we
every
wrap this
day,
up?
multiple times a day.
So, I'm sorry,
No.
go ahead. So there's another question. So she said it's literally starting on her, so there's no easement for a road. Is that also not even for a driveway? Would there be an easement for a driveway since it's a private road? So, because right now, she's only getting 15 feet from her building to the road. Would she not get an easement like we would do for any other business that's putting an easement?
I think you're asking for a setback.
That word right
Yeah,
there,
if
setback?
we put a public road out there, it could be built about 7 feet off the property line once you take the sidewalk or curb and gutter into account. So, you know, a 50-foot right of way. I don't think it's being built any closer than any other road could have been built. In fact, if it was just a regular old driveway, you could probably get down to 5 feet the whole way down.
Is there a
off
sidewalk?
the private. Probably not. Ms. Smith, I will tell you that the project engineer is sitting right behind you there in the front row, and he may be able to answer some additional questions or take some of your concerns into account with the design, as it is still not approved by Kentucky yet.
Other questions for me?
No, ma'am, I do recommend contacting TDOT, though.
Oh, I've been in touch with TDOT, and I'll be happy to share who you need to contact.
No.
Thank you very much for your
Anyone else?
consideration.
That's pretty crap.
Is there anyone anyone else here who would like to address something that was not a part of what our agenda was today? Seeing none. Motion to adjourn.
Second.